Okay, let me save the file. Okay, you're seeing like you're seeing that. So if at all you're going to deal with the array, this is a generic concept, guys. We'll complete this concept, then we'll move on to programming. So yesterday many has said that we know the concept, and many people have told that we are not aware about pointer arithmetic. So you should know about pointer arithmetic. Why I'm saying is, so whenever you're dealing with the concept like structure, you'll be coming across pointer arithmetic. Or whenever you're going with your pointer concept, you'll be coming with pointer arithmetic, or during your dynamic allocation, you'll be coming across these concepts. So you should know about how to access by using pointer arithmetic, what is happening internally. These two has to be known for you. Okay, so normally how will it declare? We'll declare an array, for example, of size 5. So we know that we'll be accepting input for this array by mentioning a loop, right? We'll mention some loop and we'll make a loop to run from the size of it, and we'll be accepting by using scanf. Scanf percentage %d, comma, ampersand of array of I. So this is for your input, and the same way for your output also we'll be mentioning printf, right? So this is a normal way. Accessing array can be done by two different approaches, guys. One approach is whatever we are doing, this is all about indexing. Okay, I'm speaking about different way for accessing an array. Okay, this approach is called indexing. We're going to access by using index of it. So this indexing can be mentioned by using either array of I, or it can be mentioned I of array. Literally both are same. This is all about the indexing concept. Okay, there is one more approach available, that is all about pointer arithmetic. Pointer arithmetic. So when you are dealing with this pointer arithmetic, we'll be dealing with the index value. We'll be dealing with your addresses. Here we are dealing with the index value, right? Array of I in the sense 0, 1, 2, 3. You're going to deal with it. So when you're going with your pointer arithmetic, we'll be dealing with the addresses. For example, let me explain you by using a small Excel sheet. Just a minute. Okay. So let me assume that there is an array. Okay, we'll consider an array. And this array consists of a value like 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. And let us give the name for the array as ARR. And let us assume the address starts with 3000. Okay. And what is the next address? Number of bytes required for an integer. These are integer value, right? So what is the number of bytes required for an integer? Just 4 bytes. Okay. 2 or 4. Yes. 2 or 4, 4 bytes, 4 bytes. Chitra, how it is 3004? I'm speaking about the number of bytes required for an integer data type. It depends on a compiler. Either I can say 2 or 4, or I can say it depends on the compiler. So if at all a compiler is a 32-bit compiler, it will be of 2 bytes. And for 64-bit compiler, it will be of 4 bytes. So more or less right now everywhere we are using only 64-bit compiler. So a simple example for 32-bit compiler will be your Turbo C. I guess if you might have came across Turbo C, right? So Turbo C is a simple example where I can consider 2 bytes. So apart from this, all majority of the compilers are 64-bit compiler. Right now you are working with online compilers. If you are working in your competitive exam, there also you'll be having an online compiler. All the things will be of 64-bit only. Okay. So here if it is of, we'll assume as 4 bytes. Since majority of recently you are using only 64-bit compiler, we can assume as 4 bytes. So if at all a question is arise like this, you can say as a generic one, it depends on a compiler. So if they want you to explain further, then you can explain about the 64-bit compiler and 32-bit compiler. Okay. Sorry guys. And next is, if at all, array, we know that array is a continuous memory allocation. So if at all starting address is 3000, it will be of 3004, and next followed by 3008, then followed by 3012, and followed by 3016. Isn't it? So this could be a memory location. But actually how it is allocated, internally what is happening here is, internally it is allocating with certain range. So what are those? Here you should understood that if it is starting with 3000, it will take only from 3000 to 3003. The exact range is known. Since I'm giving you a deep concept here, so you'll be dealing with addresses in case of your MCQs. If at all you're coming across MCQs in this concept, you'll be dealing with the address of it. So here you'll be starting with 3004 to 3007. The same way at this part. You'll be dealing with 3008 to 3011. Okay, if I say 4 byte, just calculate 4 byte. That's it. Okay. So here 3012 in the sense 3012 to 3015. The same way here. 3016 in the sense 3019. 16, 17, 18, 19, 4 bytes. So this is how it is allocated. So we are going to access this by using indexing. This is what the concept we have seen so far, right? So we are accessing a data by using the index value of it. This is indexing. The same data can be accessed by using the pointer arithmetic. This is what you're going to see. So whenever we say pointer arithmetic, it is all about pointer in the sense address. Okay, we're going to deal with the address. So if I just print, if I mention a statement like printf percentage %d, comma ARR, what could be printed here, guys? So what does ARR points to here? What does ARR points to here? The first element, right? The first element. So what is the technical term for it? We'll be using some name. If you use ARR, what is that? ARR points to the? Good. It doesn't point to array. No, Surya, no. Others are right. What does ARR points to? Good. ARR points to the base address. Okay, the term we'll be using as base address. ARR means by default it points to the base address. So at certain point we are supposed to give the technical terms, guys. Okay. So ARR points to the base address. So if it means that ARR, it points to the first address. So where does it points to? 3000. So ARR by default points to the base address 3000. Starting address alone we are going to consider. So if I mention ARR plus 1, then where does it points to? ARR plus 1, where does it goes to? Yes, good, Surya, good. Good. It goes to the next address, right? The next address is 3004. Starting address is 3004, right? It goes to 3000. So when I mention ARR, it means that it starts with the base address. So by default, what does it mean is ARR plus 0. Okay, when I mention ARR plus 1, it will point to the next address 3004. Okay, when I mention ARR plus 2, it points to the 3008. So what does it happen here? Here 3 plus 1 plus 2. So here we know that this particular integer value takes 4 bytes. So yes, good. Good, Vaishnavi, good. So what's going to happen here? Depending upon the number of bytes required for this particular data type, it is going to be multiplied. Okay, 0 into 4. Here 0 into 4 bytes. Got it? And here base address plus 1 into 4 bytes. I into size. Yes. Okay. The same way 2 into 4 bytes. So why should I mention 4 here? It may vary. If at all you are going to deal with the character type, then it will be multiplied with 1 byte. right? It may vary, depends upon the size of the data, what you're going to allocate it. Either it's an integer array or a double array or a character array. It may vary. So depending upon the size of it, your pointer is going to move here. So we can't able to say generically that it moves 0 step, 1 step. So the number of steps is decided by using the size of the data type. So if it are 4 bytes, it is going to take 4 steps here. Okay, so this is what going to happen. So what did I say is, yesterday we are speaking about when the same array can be accessed in one more approach, like instead of mentioning this ampersand, you can remove this and you can mention ARR plus I. So I guess you people are clear now what happens if I mention ARR plus I. So why should we not mention ampersand here? What is the reason behind it? I'm just removing the ampersand. In case of previous element, what I mentioned here, in case of your input, I mentioned ampersand here. Why do I remove ampersand here? If at all you're using pointer arithmetic, I'll not use ampersand. No ampersand is there. Why it is? Good. By default, ARR points to what? Address, right? So I can't able to mention address of address. So previously, I'm making ARR of I. I should say that address of array of ith index. So right now, what I'm doing? So I'm keeping with the starting address. So it is not required to mention ampersand here. If it are mentioning ampersand here, then it will mention address of address. So you're not supposed to mention here. This is all about your scanf part. Okay, in case of printf, how can I fetch the value by using pointer arithmetic? I should fetch the value at that point. So we know that our base address plus I is going to deal with the address. I want to fetch the value at that address. So what is it I should make here? Good. Very good. Nilima, very good. Good, good. Soumya, but you're missing something. Your statement is right. You're missing some element. So this is different from this. So mentioning star of array plus I is different from star of bracket of array plus I. Both are different. Both are not same. Sorry guys, here. Okay. Plus, okay. This is different from this. Both are not same. Okay, placing parentheses, it means that this is different from this. Both are not same. Both are not equal. Yes, good, good. So here we are supposed to mention star of value in that address. So we'll be mentioning star of. Okay, why is the star? If at all, you people might have came across pointer concept. So in case of pointer, what will you do? You'll declare a pointer called star PTR, right? So if at all you're having some, just a minute. Let us assume there is a variable like num assign 5. So we know that pointer holds the address of the normal variable. So we'll be mentioning PTR assign ampersand of num. Okay. So here we'll be using one concept, right? So here if at all, let us assume the num is there, address of num. So let us assume that address of num is 3000. Okay. And num is 5. And we'll mention PTR. Okay. Just for assumption, I'm considering address of PTR is 6000. Okay, just for your reference, I'm making this note alone here. Okay, and what does PTR holds? PTR holds the address of your number. So these are the values is there, right? So if at all, if you're clear with this concept, then you'll be clear with all the concept. So if I call num, okay, if I print num, what will be printed? Just a minute, we'll go one by one. So this is a simple concept where you should be clear in pointer. Okay, I'll go ahead. So if I print num, what will be printed, guys? So if I'm printing num, good. If I print num, 5 will be printed, right? So that's a value in num, it will be printed. If I print ampersand of num, good, good. So address of num is here 3000, 300 I given it, right? So 300 will be printed. So if I print PTR, So I can see different answers. Okay. Some people are giving 6,000. Okay. So here I given. Okay. So there is a typo here. Don't address of your number, guys. Okay, address of 6,000 I mentioned it. It's address of number. And here PTR address is 600. Okay, there's a small typo here. I'll modify it here. So that's the reason many people are confused, I guess. Okay. Good. So when I mention PTR, what is stored in PTR? Address of number, right? So it holds only address of number. Address of number is 300. It will be printed. So when I mention ampersand of PTR, good. Address of PTR is 600. It will be printed, right? So that is this is what the address of the PTR, the particular pointer address. If I call star PTR, I could see the star PTR is 300, 600. Okay, good. 5. All the answers are mingled. Many were confused at this point. For star PTR, many were confused. No, only few are giving right answers. No 600, no 300. Okay. Okay. Few people are those who are giving answer 5. That is right, guys. And others those are giving 300 and 600. It is not so. The reason is, so we know that there is a memory location called num, and this holds a value 5, isn't it? Yes, Trinita, good. So here, this address is 300, right? So we are having one more pointer, PTR. So when I say pointer, pointer can able to hold only the address. So it is going to hold this address 300. Okay, it is going to hold, this is a pointer. Okay, it is going to hold the address 300, and address of this is 600. So what did I say? If I say PTR, whatever, if I say number, whatever is present inside the number is printed. The same thing has happened here. If I say PTR, whatever present inside this is printed. So this is fine. So this statement is fine and this statement is fine. So when you're coming with this ampersand, we know that address of the particular variable is going to be printed. Whenever we use ampersand of variable name, the address of it is going to be printed. So whenever I mention star here, in case of PTR, keep in mind that whenever it is a pointer variable and whenever a star is placed inside it, it will never print the value inside the particular pointer. It displays the value in that address. Okay, value in the address which it is holding to. So here, if I call star PTR, value in the address 300, it will be printed here. PTR holds the address 300. So it displays the value in the address 305. Okay, one step before to it. I can have double pointer, triple pointer. I can have any number of pointers. So if I mention single star, it will go one step before to it and it will display 5 as the output. Is this concept clear, guys? Star means value in that address. What is the address held by a PTR? PTR holds the address 300, right? So value in the address 300 is 5. Is it clear? So the same thing will happen for your double pointer and triple pointer, guys. Is this logic clear for everyone? Okay, you want for double pointer. Okay, I'll explain for double pointer also. No worries. Is this clear so far? For everyone? Okay, fine, good. Okay, just a minute. I'll explain for your double pointer also. No worries. Just give me a minute. So we'll consider here one more scenario. As you say, let me consider this as a pointer 1, guys. Those are looking for double pointer. I'll explain you here. So this is a pointer 1. So this holds the address of num. So similarly, let us assume that we are going to have pointer 2, which is double pointer, and we can go till triple pointer. Okay, then the remaining pointers is of same concept. We can just understand it. So PTR2 assign address of PTR1. So this is what it will be going. So PTR3 assign address of PTR2. This is what it will be here. So here, as for assumption, what you consider? We are consider address of num1 is 300 and value in it is Just a minute. So this is value part and this is the address part. Okay, let me consider. This is the address and this is the value. The same way, let me consider address of PTR1 is, so you consider this as a 3000, okay? Something like. Just a minute. Let me initialize the value so then we can go ahead further. So what does this particular value in PTR? It holds the address of number 1. The same way. So let me remove this and copy paste this here. Why to type again? 2 PTR1, PTR2 and PTR3, right? So PTR2, PTR3. Okay. What does PTR2 holds? Let us assume that address of PTR2 is 7000 and this is all about 8000. So this holds address of number 1 and this holds address of this holds your PTR1 address and this holds your PTR2 address. Okay. Here, so num address is here, right? So this PTR1 address, PTR2 address, PTR3 address, and this address. I'll initialize all the values. Okay, fine. Now we can go ahead. So let me remove this. Just a minute. Here we'll start printing num, followed by address of num. Okay, both the things are fine here for number. And same way we can just check with PTR1. Start PTR1. Sorry, PTR1. Ampersand PTR1. Then start PTR1. Okay, let me copy paste it for other two things. Okay. 2 and 3. 2 and 3 here. The same way, 2 and 3. Okay, guys. So you can go ahead here. So your double pointer, right? Double pointer, and here triple pointer. Just a minute. Just a minute. So I'll mention start PTR2. So I'll mention start PTR. Just a minute. Let me do one thing. Single start PTR2. Okay, this is a sequence where should you know what triple pointer you're going to consider here, guys. Okay, so here as per the scenario, just a minute for a better understanding, let me do one more small work. So you're going to have this is your number and this is your pointer 1, and let me consider this is your pointer 2 and this is your pointer 3. Okay, this is your number and number has a value 5 in it and address of it is 3000. The same way, just a minute, man, just a minute, give me a minute. Next is pointer 1, pointer 2, pointer 3. So what I stated here is this is all about 6000 and this is all about 7000 and this is 8000. Okay, so what does pointer 1 hold? It holds the address of this one. This is 3000 and this is all about 6000 and this is all about 7000. Now we can go further. So what happens on the okay, we'll start here. Just a minute, Srinita. I'll complete this one. I'll see to you what it is. So if I give, we have seen these two. If I say 5, if I say number, 5 will be displayed. If I see ampersand of number, it will display 3000. This is done. This is a very basic one. We'll start here. So if I say PTR 1, what will be printed? So for pointer 1, what will be printed? What does pointer 1 holds? Good. Pointer 1 holds the points to the address of your number. So it will display as 3000. Okay, isn't it? And next, if I say ampersand of PTR1, where does it point to? Address of PTR1. It displays the address of it, right? So the address of it will be displayed as 6000. So if I say star PTR1, for star, what did I say? Value in that address. So what is the address? It is 3000. The value in this address 3000 is 5 for single star. So it will display 5 here. So this is done. The same way for PTR2, what does PTR2 points to? Okay. So generically, if you call PTR2, it holds the address of your PTR1. Good. So address of PTR1 is 6000. So if I call ampersand of PTR2, where does it points to? Ampersand of address of it, right? So what is address of PTR2? Address of it is 7000. It will be pointing to its address. So 7000 will be displayed. So if I call double star PTR2, so first I should mention single star, guys. Just a minute. Let me mention single star, then I can go for double star. I done a reverse order. Okay. First we'll go on a single star. For single star PTR2, where does it points to? Single star PTR2. Good. Whenever I say star, one step before to it, right? Only one step before to it. So right now, your PTR is at this point, and what is the address held by your PTR? It is 6000. So go to the address and see the value in it. Value in that address. Good, Sanjana. Value in that address, the value in that address is 3000. So it will be printed. So what about double star then? So for one star, what I say, it goes one step before to it. Right? If at all it's 2 star, again value in that address. Okay, if it is for 1 star, it goes to value in the address 6000, 3000. Again for one more star, value in that address. So it points to 5. So this is how it goes, guys. You should know the order of it. Okay, this is done. I guess you people are clear with it. The same way for PTR3, what will be displayed? For PTR3, it will be 7000, right? This is what it is holding. Address of PTR3? Address of it is 8000. Okay. Then followed by, just a minute, we'll make this one first. So if this sequence you're going, so those are not clear with it, it will be clear if this sequence is followed. Okay. So if I mention star PTR3, where does it points to? Star. Value in that address. So the address is 7000. Value in the address 7000 is 6000, right? So it points to 6000. So if I give double star PTR3, double star. Yes, again value in the address 6000. It is 3000. If it is of triple pointer, 5, right? So value in the address, value in this address, value in this address 3000, it will points to 5. So this is how it is going to work. Okay, I guess you people are clear with the pointer concept. This is how it will be working, like double pointer, single pointer, and triple pointer. It can go like any number of pointers. So we can mention the single star, double star. It may vary. Here you can notice that I'm having triple star, but I can use even single star also, double star also. What happens if you use single star and double star? Some address will be fetched, and this is how the sequence the address will be fetched. Okay. So why did we came across this pointer concept? Yes, for pointer arithmetic, we came across this, right? I guess you people are clear with this concept. So here we are using the same concept here. You can notice here. So I'm mentioning address here, right? You can notice just a minute. Let me close the chat box. Okay. So you are dealing with the address. So if I want to fetch the value in that address, so here, so if I mention ARR plus 0, it points to here, right? So if you want to store a value, you'll mention ARR plus 0, ARR plus 1, ARR plus 2. This is how you'll be going in a sequence. So if I want to fetch the value in the address, then I should make star of it. Got it? Whenever you're dealing with the pointer, fetch the value in this address, make whole star of it. That is the reason we are putting star over here. Okay, this is a pointer concept. You should know about it. So I guess you people are now clear with the both the way of accessing an array. One way is indexing, another is pointer arithmetic. So these are the two ways I can able to access the array, either by using this approach or this approach. Now, before moving on further, let me give you one more clarity regarding array. So if at all if you mention like this, okay, if you mention ARR plus 1, you people said that it will be going to first array, right? It will be going to the first index position. So if I mention printf %d, comma, ampersand of ARR plus 1, where does it points to? So if I mention ARR plus 1, it points to the first index. One step it will be going. So if I mention ampersand of ARR plus 1, now what could be the address? Just let me know the address of it, guys. 3000. No, it is not 3000 or 3004. Same address. Plus 1, guys. So if I mention plus 1, you are saying that it goes to here. I do agree this one. So if I say ampersand of ARR plus 1, which address will be printed? Just think to it. No. No. $200, $3,000. No. No one is right so far. No 3,000. No 3,004. No 200. No. No one. Bhuvana, the second one will just check it, it will throw you error. The only one approach, the first approach is possible. Here, the first approach according to your statement, guys, this program will work fine. This logic will work fine. There is no error in the code. Bona asked me, right? The first one, what you are doing is you are doing point address arithmetic and you are going to fetch the value. Guys, as I stated, okay, I'll explain you, Bona. I'll explain for everyone, okay? Just let me complete the statement. No idea. No one has given right answer. We haven't came across this concept. Bhavana. Okay. Fine. Okay. Bhavana. Okay, Bhavana. Okay. It is not an error, guys. Okay, listen here. So if I say ARR plus 1, as we stated, it goes 4 bytes, right? So if at all we say ampersand of it. Sorted index, stored index, okay, it displays the value stored at the index position. No, what is that index? Somehow this is going to give you only index position, guys. It will throw you index position. The index position will not be 3000 or 3004. That is not a garbage value also. That is not a garbage value also. No. Actually, it will throw you the output. Okay, let me tell you guys. Okay, I guess people have never came across this concept. It is very much important here. So if I say this one, your answer will be 3020. Okay, your output will be 3020. So where does your pointer comes? Your pointer comes to this question. From here, from the base address, overall base address plus 1. Okay, just a minute. Let me check with this notation alone. Okay, I'm not sure about it. Base address plus 1. Yes. Okay, we'll just print it, guys. Okay, just give me a minute. We'll just print this statement alone. Then we can move on further. Just a minute. Let me share you the screen. Just let us execute the statement alone. Let us open. There's an important concept where everyone should know. Just a minute. Give me a minute alone. So we'll just work on it. No issues. Only one line of statement, right? We'll make it clear. Then we'll move on to the next one. Yes, actually today's concept is something else. We're moving on in depth into pointer and array concept. We're supposed to come out of it soon. Today concept we're supposed to start with dynamic programming. So we'll move on. Okay, just after completing this one, we'll move on. Let me give percentage %u. Okay, we'll print the unsigned integer address as your output. Okay, I'll call array as you state. So many were having doubt what is going to happen here, right? Okay, just a minute. ARR plus 1. Okay. So let me give you all the print statements so that it will be clear. So yeah. So this is value, right? So let me make sure. So just not to show you difference in print and new line, I'm giving slash and before to it, nothing else. Okay, just I given 3 different print statement, guys. I've initialized the array and we are printing a ARR, which is the base address element, and followed by ARR plus 1. Okay, the next element, and followed by value in the first index, just for our reference, and followed by ampersand of ARR plus 1. These are the print statement you're going to just check for checking where you're going to use it. Yeah. Yes. So I guess there is a small ampersand of ARR plus 1. So how many elements we are initialized? 4 elements we are initialized. Guys, just think to it. This is not bracket together. The bracket should be made like this. Okay. Base address plus 1. Okay. So this is what I told you, right? Let me check it. So this is a 1. So you'll come to the output screen. Just a minute. I'll share you the entire screen so that you can have a comparative study. Give me a minute. That is. Just a minute, I'll share you. Is it possible to share the entire screen? No, I don't get. Just a minute. There is no way for sharing the entire screen for me. Something is hiding here. Okay, listen. So first, what? Just keep in mind that first, what we people are printing. We people are printing first here. Okay, first we are printing the base address and followed by base address plus 1 and value at the second address 2 should be printed here and followed by here. As I stated, your pointer should come at the last pointer. After 4 elements, you should come here. Now we'll go to the output window. Listen here. So what is the first value? First value we have printed the base address. So what is base address here? Base address is some random value where it is ending. It is ending with the value 20. So the next element is taken 4 bytes. You can notice that 4 byte is taken here. And followed by the value at the second address 2 is taken. And here, this is the important concept where we came across. So where it is going? It is going to 36. How many elements we are initialized? 4 elements we are initialized. So overall, how many bytes is required? For 4 integers, how many bytes is required? 16 bytes is required. So 16 along with your base address. So it is 36. Okay. So whenever we state like this, ampersand of ARR plus 1, what's going to happen here is along with the base address, one element is going to be added. So this ampersand is different from here. Normal ampersand of normal mentioning ARR plus 1. ARR plus 1 in this is the next index. Here if you mention base address plus 1, it moves to the end of your array. 1 byte, the complete elements considered as here one address. The complete array is considered as a one address. So 1 address plus 1. It moves to 20. If it starts with 2000, it moves to 2020. So is this concept clear? Shall we move on, guys? Okay, fine. So I guess someone asked me some other doubt, right? So mentioning like this, why can't we mention like this? So what is that? One of you has asked that here. You asked me that. Why can't you mention like this? Okay, what is this one? If people are asking without bracket, what's going to happen, right? Just a minute, I'll show you what is going to happen. You can see to it. So here, star of ARR. So what does, so let me mention 10 here so that you can able to find some difference in your output. Else you can't able to identify the difference here. So instead of mentioning star, if you instead of mentioning bracket, you fail to mention star, what happened? So by default, this value will be taken as a base address, guys. This is your base address value. Star of base address value 10. 10 plus 1 will be taken. So I'll show you the output. Just have a glance of it once. So 10 plus 1, it will display 11 as your output. Can you notice here? It is displaying 11 as your output. So this is the difference. Okay. So this could be a difference. Okay, guys, fine. I guess if I made you people clear with this array concept and what is the trick behind it. So these are the, to the maximum, you'll be getting only these concepts, guys. The same concept, if you're going with, okay, what is that? ARR plus 2. Ampersand of ARR plus 2. Just give it and check to it. What's going to happen? It will take again the 16 bytes will be added to it. So actually this plus 2, plus 3, all those things goes in your 2-dimensional array. Okay, just a minute. I'll show you the output. Guys, all the R&Ds you can try to it and check it and let me know. Okay. So if you keep on discussing this array concept, today complete session will be completing in this itself. Look at here. Okay, it's just I'll explain this concept alone. Then we'll move on to further, guys. So if I give ARR plus 2, what's going to happen? Okay, this also you should know about it. So here we know that it's a 16-byte data, right? So look at here. What is the address difference here? +2. This is base address +1. This is base address +2. So again +16. So one array is taken as complete 16-byte. So if you mention +2, so again 16-byte will be taken. Is this clear? If it's of +2, again 32 bytes will be taken from base address 32. Come on, guys. Okay, fine. Okay, ma. We'll move on to the programming concept. There it is. Just a minute. Let me share you the PPT. Here is a next question. Guys, I guess I clarified all your doubts. If at all you have some doubts left over, don't worry. At the end of the session, I'll give you timing. You can, before 5 minutes, I'll give you 5 minutes or 10 minutes at the end of the session. You can clarify all your doubts. Okay, we'll move on to today's concept. We are speaking about array concept, which is related to this particular program. So we'll just complete this program. So have you came across this program, guys? This program displaying, finding the peak element. Have you people did it? The previous session? Come on, give me confirmation. Okay. Yes, right. I assume that everyone has did it. Yes, good. Okay, fine. I could see that only yes answer. Okay, then I guess everyone has did it. Okay, fine. So today, after this array concept, we are completing it, and then just a minute. Some other PPT are shared. Just give me a minute alone. Where should I share it? Okay, here. So I remember we got this on test. You people got it on test. Okay, fine. Okay. Now, what is the concept you're going to see is we are going to see with dynamic programming. Have you came across the concept called dynamic programming? So we are going to see program based on it. Have you came across the term dynamic programming? Yes, no, something. Yes, 2 yes and 2 no's. Others, what about others? Dynamic programming. So we are going to see program based on it. So before seeing the program, I should know whether you're aware of this one and you're clear with the concept of this. Okay, few yes and many no's. Okay, leave it. No worries. I'll give a recap of it. No worries. So let me know what is dynamic programming. Few people knows it, right? What is dynamic programming all about? Why should I go for dynamic programming? Normally we have array concept, divide and conquer method, greedy approach. We have multiple approaches. So why should I go for dynamic programming? What does it do? What is all about it? Okay, reduce the time complexity. Good. The advantage is reduce time complexity. Okay, fine. I do agree. What else? Okay, optimize the coding. Okay, reduce the time complexity, increase the efficiency, change or update the value. Okay, optimize. Okay, guys, time complexity is going to optimize, guys. That I do agree. But Shravanti, it is not, no space complexity will not be space complexity here. It is not optimized one. No space complexity is optimized. I'll let you know why it is. Okay, what else? What else? That's it. Yeah, speaking about advantage and disadvantage. Okay, let me know what is the dynamic programming means. So what you're going to do there in dynamic programming. So you people are speaking about time complexity, space complexity. I do agree. Time complexity, we are going to have minimal amount of time compared to the other approaches. And space complexity wise, we are going to have an increased time. So space is not going to be an efficient one here. The programming in which passes all test cases. No, Sanjana, no. We take recursive approach. Srinita, no. It is not a recursive approach. We cannot able to say that completely. Like getting memory while compiling. Harshita. So I guess many people are giving some assumption answer. So by looking at this term, dynamic runtime. So by during runtime, memory will be allocated. No, not at all. For all the programming, it happens. What is specific here? What is the approach here? Greedy techniques we'll use. Okay. So whatever yes, Srinita has given. Okay, bottom up, memorization, recursive approach. Good. These techniques you'll be using. Good, good. Satisfies all the condition. Who told this statement? Everyone is giving satisfies all the condition, satisfies all the condition. It gives efficient output. I do agree, but I'm asking about what does it does. So if you say that some concept, for example, if someone is asking you about divide and conquer, you can able to state clearly that I'm going to divide the array continuously. That is divide and merge it, conquer and merge it. This is a concept. The same way we are going to have some logic for dynamic programming. What is it? Sagiti, you're partially right. Okay, good. Okay, listen guys. Okay, listen. So here, we people might have came across divide and conquer approach, right? So in divide and conquer, what you're going to do? You're going to continuously divide a larger problem into smaller sub-problems. You're going to break down the problems into okay. Okay, fine. Okay, listen here, guys. Listen, let me start explaining about it. You can understand what it is completely. Okay. So when someone is asking you about the dynamic programming, this is what you're supposed to give, and this is what you're supposed to understand about dynamic programming. Okay, listen properly here. Listen here. Everyone listen carefully. So dynamic programming is all about we are going to take a larger problem and we are going to break down into multiple sub-problems. So the first task is breaks down the complex problem. For your reference, let me write this one here. Complex problem into simpler problem. So you people might think that even in case of this one, divide and conquer approach, you're going to do the same thing. Then what is the difference here? The same dividing of problem into a sub-problem is going to happen here also. Here, in case of divide and conquer approach, we are not going to store any sub-problems here. For example, result of subproblem. For example, if at all you're going to do summation of 1 plus 2. So 1 plus 1, you'll be storing as 2. So again, if you want to add 3 coins, for example, you'll take just 1 plus 1, 2. Again, if you want to add 1 to it, again, what you'll do? You will mention 1 plus 1 plus 1. So 1 plus 1, 2, 2 plus 1, 3. So if at all, each and every time, if you want to do the calculation, you're going to start from the beginning, right? So already I have a result of 1 plus 1. We are not going to make use of in case of divide and conquer approach. In case of divide and conquer approach, you're going to divide a problem into multiple sub-problems. But in case of dynamic programming, that is not going to happen. What you're going to do is, we are going to store the result of the sub-problem. Got it? So we are going to store the result of a sub-problem. Already, I have a result of 1 plus 1. So this is not going to happen in case of dynamic programming. So when I come across 1 plus 1, so directly I'll substitute 2 plus 1. So what happens here? Calculating this result time is getting reduced, isn't it? So this result 1 plus 1 will be stored in a separate table. Yes, I'll let you know all the scenarios, guys. First, let me explain you, then I'll give you all the technical terms, okay? So here, this is how it will be done. The same way, when you come across 1 plus 1 plus 1, so we know that it is 3, so 3 plus 1. So this is going to happen in case of dynamic programming. This is the difference between your normal divide and conquer and dynamic programming. Even in case of dynamic programming, what you're going to do, you're going to divide a complex program into sub-problems where the result of the sub-problem is stored. We are going to store the result of the subproblem. So what is this approach? We will be using, okay, to solve the optimized solution. Whenever we are coming across the term called optimization, we'll come across here. It is used to solve the optimization problems. Whenever you want to come across optimization problems, you'll be solving this one. Okay, and here, as I stated here, each and every sub problems will be dealt in an optimal way. In a normal approach, as we do for divide and conquer, will not take as a generic one. So for solving one problem, as we seen that multiple ways are available, right? But in case of dynamic programming, you will take the optimal solution. Okay, there is a difference between normal solution and optimal solution, guys. Here we'll be taking the optimal solution. Optimal solution to solve to these sub problem. For each and every sub problems, I'll take only the optimal solution. Okay, and after finding the optimal solution, what I'm going to do, I'm going to store the result. As I stated that I'm going to find a small optimal solution. I'll just store this result. So this is what the next step. Store the result of a sub problems. So what is this technique called? Many people has came across, right? So this technique, storing the result of the sub problem, this technique is called memoization. This is a technical term where everyone should know about it. This is called memoization. Memoization is like memory, keeping in memory, the calculation of it. As we will be doing, right? The multiplication table will be memorizing, right? So whenever we come across the huge multiplication, 1 into 2 into 3 into 4, we'll just substitute 1 into 2. Again, the result into will be substituting, right? The same thing is going to happen in your dynamic programming. The smaller part result will be stored and we are going to substitute it. So this data will be kept stored somewhere and this process is called memoization. Yes, you are right, Kritika. So because of this memory storage, so what you're supposed to do, each and every time you're supposed to store the data, right? So what happens here? Memory space is required for it. So it is high space, it requires a lot of, so it is not reduced, it increases, we can keep increases. So time complexity wise, it is going to reduce it. The reason is each and every time I know it of calculating it. But comparing to a space complexity, what happens? Your space complexity increases since you are supposed to store the data each and every time. So this is what is going to happen. And finally, what you'll do? So based on this particular stored data, we are going to finally calculate the complex program. Complex problem. So if someone is asking regarding this one dynamic programming, these are the four important key points you're supposed to say, guys. Instead of saying other things, only this is required. What you're going to do in memoization, this one dynamic programming. So whenever you're looking for optimal problems, you'll go for dynamic programming. Complex programs are divided into subprograms. So if they ask regarding the comparison of this divide and conquer and this dynamic programming, then you can state clearly that where you're going to store the subproblem result and we are going to make use of it. Okay, this is the important key points you're supposed to state when someone is asking regarding this particular concept. And this is the flow of it. This is of whatever the programming we are going to see in dynamic programming concept. This is the flow of it. We are going to break it into smaller subproblems, store the result, and this table we are going to form a table and you're going to store the result of it. Whenever we come across the particular subproblem, you're going to make use of it. This is what you're going to do. So we people might have a doubt. When should I use it? So when? Where should be applied? Okay, when to use this one? So here, when you come across this question, we'll be having two concepts, guys. So whenever you're coming across overlapping problem, okay, overlapping sub problem where the same problem has to be derived again. When you're coming across overlapping sub problem, then you're going to make use of this particular dynamic approach. And one more thing is whenever you're looking for optimal structure, optimal, I can mention optimal substructure. So what is optimal substructure in the sense? Here, the smaller problems we are going to substitute for the higher values, right? This is called optimal substructure. It is going in a hierarchy where the complex program is depending on the smaller subproblem. It is following the structure, right? This is called optimal substructure. So when you're coming across these two concept in a program, then we'll be going for this dynamic programming. These are the places where I should use dynamic programming. So before moving on to the complex program, let me explain you about the basic program, Fibonacci number. Okay, I'll explain you about the very basic program, Fibonacci number, where everyone knows it, right? So this Fibonacci number can be done in recursion also. By using normal looping also I can do it, or I can do it in a recursive approach. So just I'll show you the comparative study of. So I could see that many people have stated that when I'm going for dynamic programming, I can go for a recursive approach. I'll show you one small example. If you are using recursive approach, what is going to happen and what is the time complexity of it? And if at all you are using this particular dynamic programming without recursive approach, what is going to happen? Okay, this is what you're going to see. Comparative study, once you're clear with it, you can solve all the programs there. You could find that wherever you're coming across the question called dynamic programming, in most of the part, they might have mentioned recursive approach, but recursive approach is not advisable. By default, recursive approach is not at all advisable. The reason is the same program Fibonacci, if you are doing by using loop, yes, time complexity wise, it is a high, as well as space complexity. What happened? The memory space will be used a lot for you storing the values in stack memory, right? So the space complexity wise also, it will require a lot of memory. So recursive approach is not advisable. So let me show you by a proof. Then we can go ahead with your other approaches. What is the other approach we can do by using dynamic programming? Okay, just a minute. Give me a minute alone. Let me write the algorithm flow of it alone. I'm not going to write the entire program. Just for your understanding, let me write the outer skeleton of it alone. Okay, just a minute. This is just like an algorithm. Consider this as the algorithm, guys. This is not a complete program. Just for your understanding, I'm writing algorithm alone. So for the first two numbers, we'll be having generating series like 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. It will be going on like this. So for the first two number, when n value is 0 and n value is 1, it is going to have a value 0 and 1, right? So return 0, return 1. This is going to happen. If it is not, so I'll be writing algorithm like sum assign Fibo of n minus 1 plus Fibo of n minus 2. Then you'll be having return your sum value. This is going to be a generic algorithm. Okay, so what will happen? For example, if at all I want to generate 5 numbers. So let us assume I want to generate these 5 numbers. If your n value is given as 5, Fibo of 5 is given. Okay, how will I generate first? Just give me a minute. Let us draw a structure for it. Just a minute, ma. Let us go here. Where is Excel? Just a minute. I'll close other windows. So just I'm trying to display the entire screen, but it is not displaying. Just a minute. Just a minute, ma. Give me a minute alone. If I'm displaying the entire screen, it will be easy for us to have a comparative study. That's what I'm just looking for it. Just a minute. Entire screen option is visible. I don't know why. Okay, fine. Okay, it is it. So as I stated, so let me bring the algorithm also here. Then this could be fine. No other way. So let me have the algorithm aside. So if at all I want to find Fibo of 5, okay, just assume it. So what will I do? When I have Fibo of 5, I'll check if this condition is not true, this condition is not true. and n value is 5 right now, right? So what happened? This condition is also false. So what happened? This number will be Fibo of 4 and Fibo of 3. These two functions will be called again. This is all about your recursive approach, guys. So what happens here? It will become as Fibo of 4 and it will become as Fibo of 3. In the same program only, I'm going to show you all the memorization technique also. Just listen carefully, okay? So here this is done. Again, what happened? Again, this is a recursive call, right? This is going to call again. This left tree is going to call again. So what happened? Fibo of 4. So this algorithm is going to be executed. So this condition is, first condition is false, second condition is false, third condition is false. So it come here. So Fibo of 4 minus 1, 4 minus 2. So again, what happened? This will become as Fibo of 3 and Fibo of 2. Okay. Again, what happened? This Fibo of 3. So these three conditions will be false. 3 minus 1, 3 minus 2 is going to happen here. So what is going to happen here is, so we'll have Fibo of 2 and here we'll have Fibo of 1. So space is not sufficient. Just a minute. Oh, okay, fine. So now what is going to happen? Again, this 2 is going to be passed here. So when 2 is passed, what happened? 2 minus 1, 2 minus 2. So what will happen here is, it will become as Fibo of 1 and it will become as Fibo of 0. So after completion of this, here the no more, when n value is 1, it is going to return as 1 here. So there is no more return value here. The same thing, the same tree is going to happen for this also. So when this is called, the same thing is going to happen, 0 and 1. So when this tree structure is called, again, this is going to happen. This is going to calculate it. Just a minute. So this is going to happen. Again, for 2, this is going to be calculated. Okay, this could be a tree structure, guys. Whenever you're calling with the recursion function, this could be a tree structure. So the same program, if you want to find Fibo of 5, how many iteration is required? For finding 5th Fibonacci number, how many iteration is required? Can you calculate it? And Fibo value is 5. How many iterations? How many iterations, ma? Just calculate it. Good. It is merely how many iteration? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5 iterations. Just a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 iterations. So if you want to find the 5th Fibonacci number, how many iterations is taken? 15 iteration is taken. Okay, around 15 iteration. So just imagine, just for number 5, very minimal number 5, it is taking 15 iteration. So if it is for larger number, what happened? There is some series, so you should know about it. So if you want to find 0 and first Fibonacci number, it will take 1 iteration. When you want to find second Fibonacci number, it will take 3 iteration. If you want to find third Fibonacci number, it will take 5 iteration. If you want to find 5th Fibonacci number, it will take 15 iteration. 6th Fibonacci number, it will take 25 iteration. And for, if at all, like 10th Fibonacci number, it will take like 177 iteration. So if you want to find 20th Fibonacci number, then it will take merely 22,000 iterations. Can you get it? Why do I say that? Because your approach is not efficient one. Okay, it takes these many iterations, guys. So just for a smaller number, just to find a 10th number, how many iterations? 21,000, 22,000 merely. Okay, so how many times it is taking? What is the time complexity of it? If at all you are using recursive approach, it is literally that 2 to the power of n. Each and every time you can notice that 2 to the power of n times it is going to 10 and 20, the difference. To the power of n times. This is the time complexity if at all we people are using this Fibonacci approach. So there is a reason I told you that don't use Fibonacci approach. Time complexity wise also it is worse. The reason is I know that what is Fibo of 3. Again, what happens in case of this recursive approach? The same fib of 3 is calculated. The reason is we are not going to store anywhere. Each and every time you're going to calculate again and again. For a known result, the time is taken. What is that, Priya? PC of people. What is, I can understand what something you're thinking. Okay, fine. Okay. So this is what happens here. Okay. Time complexity. Okay, fine. This is what happens in case of your Fibonacci number. So if at all, this is a recursive method, guys. If at all you're not using recursive method, so what is the other technique we are seeing? That memoization. In case of memoization, what you're supposed to do, we are going to have a separate array. Okay, we are going to have a separate array. Let us assume that I'm giving the name of the array called memo. I'm going to have a name of the array called memo. So where I'm going to have an index value like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay. So when the first value, you're going to have a first two value like 0 and 1. So each and every time when I compute the value, what I'm going to do, I'm going to store a value. So this can be done by using memoization approach. So it is not required to calculate again. Whenever I come across this particular value, I can just fetch the value from it. For that, what is the algorithm and how we are going to solve it, we are going to see. This is a recursive approach I've shown you, but this is not advisable. The reason is the time complexity is 2 to the power of n times you're going to go here. So here, just a minute. The same program, if at all you're going to make it for a memoization technique, you're going to make use of memoization technique. We'll see how you're going to make it by using memoization. So here for memoization, what I'll do is initially I'll mention all the array, all the elements of your array as -1. Okay, I'll mention all the array as a -1 if here let us assume you're going to have an array called memo as a stator, and we have initialized the initial value of memo as -1. So what you're going to state is if memo of n not equals to -1, then okay, we are supposed to return memo of n. So what is the statement I'm doing here? As I stated, you're going to have an array called memo, and initial value I'm going to make it as -1. So as I state the array, the initial value is -1. Okay, initial value of the array is -1. Whenever I say that the particular array of m is, for example, if you're called with the fibo of 2. So fibo of 2 depends upon 1 and fibo of 1 and 0, right? So what happened? Fibo of 1 will be stored with the value. Fibo of 0 will be stored with the value 0, and fibo of 1 will be stored with the value 1. So these two values will be computed and be stored here as 1. So when you come across again fibo of 2, I'll check that if memo of n not equals to -1. If at all it is not equals to -1 only, I'm going to calculate it. Got it? If it is equals to -1, sorry, if it is not equal to -1, I'll calculate it. If it is just a minute. Somewhere I made a mistake. So if it is, sorry mom, if it is a small pronunciation mistake, here if it is not equals to -1, you're going to fetch a value from it, return the value from memo of n. This is memo array, right? Okay, so this is a memo array. When the value is not equals to -1, it means that the value is calculated previously. You're going to fetch a value from the particular array. Guys, are you following me? If at all it is not equals to -1, it means that the data is calculated and stored already. You're going to fetch the value. If it is equals to -1, then go further. This condition will not be satisfied. Got it? So by using the memoization, I can initialize the array as -1, and where I can store the calculated result. So I can store the value as fibo of 0, fibo of 1. The concerned index position is the 0th index position, first, second, third. So this is fibo of 2, this is fibo of 3. Each and every time I'm going to check whether it is equals to not equals to -1, just fetch a value. If it is equals to -1, just I'm going to proceed further. I'm going to calculate it. At the end, there's a rough algorithm, guys. This is not the exact algorithm, just a rough approach alone. I'm just making you understand. So if it is not there, if it is coming and calculating, at the end, what you'll do, you'll mention memo of n assign sum, which is nothing but after calculating the nth position. If you're going to calculate the fib of 4, the fourth position value will be assigned with the sum value what you have calculated. Is it clear, guys, what I'm stating here? So now I will take this algorithm there and we'll take there. Okay, just a minute. So as I stated, recursive approach is not advisable. Keep it as such. Okay, we'll come on here. I'll paste this approach here and just we'll copy this one here. We'll see how we are going to avoid the iteration, and we'll see in this method what is the time complexity and how we are going to avoid it. Avoid the unnecessary iteration. What is that, ma'am? What is it? How this -1 came? Yes, we are going to fill it. We will be initializing array with 0, right? The same way the initial value is initialized with -1. The initial value of array, all the index position has to be initialized with -1. After calculation of the value, each and every step, you are going to put a value in the particular memory. Okay, the initial value has to be done by the user. Okay, I'll explain you the example. Listen here. Okay, listen here. So the same 5 will take it. We are going to find the fib of 5. You're supposed to calculate it. So what you're going to do, if you're going to calculate fib of 5, this is the first step you'll be doing it. So when I come here, so I'll check here if memo of n not equals to -1. So no values, right? So 5 is not equals to -1. So what happened? This process will be completed. It will come till this one. So each and every time it will be further divided like this. Further division happens like this. It will come to this step. So this particular recursive approach happens toward your left tree. This will happen like this, guys. Okay. So after reaching at this point, now what happened? Fib of 1. So fib of 1 value is 1 here. So this value, this result will be returned back. So what is the value here? 1. For this, it will be returning as 1. And for this, what is the value? We'll be getting 0. Okay, these two values as per the algorithm. These two values will be returning. So summation of these two values is there, right? So when you get fib of 1. So sorry guys, okay, just a minute. So this two will be executed. Let me go step by step. So when I come across fib of 0, I'll check whether it is not equals to -1. Fib of 0 will be calculated, right? So it is 0. So once this is calculated, what happened? It will come here and this particular value, memo of 0th position is equals to a sum value. So this will be initialized to 0. And after calculation of fib of 1, this position will be initialized to 1. Just I'm initializing this one here. Okay, you can notice this particular step. I'm initializing here after calculation of it. If at all it is not equals to -1, just I'll calculate it and initialize to memo of concerned position. So 0th position and first position is calculated. Now these two value will be added and then this will be initialized to the value 1. So now after calculating it, this particular value will be initialized as 1 here. Okay, so this is done. Again, what happened? This part is over. Now I'll come here. So I can notice that fib of 3 is a collection of fib of 2 and fib of 1. I know already what is fib of 1 is all about. So we are not going to calculate this part. This is not going to be calculated. We are going to take a value from the existing memo. I'll check where fib of 1 not equals to -1. In those cases, when this function is called, fib of 2 and fib of 1 will be a function called for fib of 3, right? So whenever it is fib of 1, this particular value at the memo will be taken. It will not be calculated. It will take from the memo. So in memo, what is the value here? In fib of 1, it is 1 already. So this value 1 will be taken and this will be added and stored as 2. So this 2 will be stored in a position where in memo of 3. So this 2 is stored. Again, it comes here. The same thing is going to happen. So here, fib of 4. Fib of 4 is fib of 3 and fib of 2. Even this also will not be calculated. We know that fib of 2 is already 1. So what is going to happen? 1 plus 1. So this 1 plus 1 will be calculated as 3 and will be stored in this memory index position. So this is done. So all your left part is done. So right now I should calculate my right part. So we know this one, right? So we are coming to the deepest part here. Just a minute. This is also not calculated. This is also not calculated. The same thing happens for your whole right tree. So this will not be calculated. This will not be calculated. This also will not be calculated. And this also will not be calculated. And this also will not be calculated. The reason is already we have a value of it here. Fibonacci memo of 3 consists of a Fibonacci of 3 value. Just we are going to take a value here. Just add these two value and 5 will be stored in this memory. Got it. So now how many iterations is happening, guys? How many iterations is happening now? Divya, what happened? Yes, only 6 iteration is happening. Just a minute, someone is asking doubt. Yes, you are right, Nilma, you are right. So what happened? Nearly how many iteration? Only 6 iteration is happening, right? So you can notice that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here number of iteration is 6. So which is more or less equals to your number. The given number is 5. The number of iteration is 6. So what is the time complexity here? It is order of n. Just one value, upper greater value is considered only as an order of n, guys. So look at the difference here. What is the time complexity of it and what is the time complex for this one? So this is how your efficient programming is calculated and this is the purpose of this dynamic approach, guys. So this approach, how we are doing, this approach is like top to bottom approach. From top, you are coming down one by one, step by step, you are solving it, right? This approach is called top to bottom approach. Top to bottom approach. I hope so everyone is following me. If at all you find something doubt, let me know immediately, guys, okay? Top to bottom approach, I can do by this approach. This is the memorization technique. And there is one more approach also available, guys, the same memorization technique, that is bottom to top approach. That is a tabular method. Either I can mention bottom to top approach or tabular method. The one more approach is also available. Overall, 3 approaches people told me, right? So the efficient one might be the most commonly used approach is only the tabular approach is the one where most commonly will be using it. Bottom to bottom up approach or bottom to top approach. So here the other name, I can call it as a table method. This is the third approach. Okay. So this particular approach comes from bottom. Here we are coming from top to bottom, flow is there, right? The flow completely varies. We are going to come from bottom to top. So first let me write the algorithm for it. Then we can go ahead further, guys. So here I'm writing the generic algorithm with the example of Fibonacci series. The flow will be more or less same for all the concept. Okay, the flow of it. I didn't mean the concept of it. The flow of the program will be more or less same. So if it is of bottom to top approach, we'll be having Fibonacci of int n. So I'll be having an array. So we'll be initializing first 2 element, array of 0 assigned 0 and followed by array of 1 assigned 1. The remaining element will start with the loop of I value assigned to and I less than or equals to n value followed by I plus plus. And followed by it, we'll have array of I equals to array of I minus 1 plus array of I minus 2. And we'll return our array of n. This is the bottom up approach. Just I'll explain you this bottom up approach with an example. Just we'll go back here. So this is algorithm for it. So as I stated that if we want to find the same Fibo of 5, our question is all about, let us assume we want to find Fibo of 5. Okay, in this scenario, what you're supposed to do, we'll start from 0 to 5. In the previous case, we are starting from 5 to 0, right? Here, what you're going to do, we are going to start from 0 to 5. So we'll be mentioning when your I value is 0, this particular value will be 0. The same way, when your I value is 1, the value returned is 1. These two will be a calculated value, right? Let me give some other color. It is very dark. Okay. So these two could be, what happens? Okay, just a minute, guys. So these two could be a calculated value for 0 and 1. So again, what happened when you want to calculate for 2? When your I value is equals to 2. So you'll be calculating from these two. So where these two elements will be stored the same way. Again, we'll have a table like earlier one. So we'll have an array. So we'll have a value like 0, 1. Okay. The summation of these two, the I minus 1. Right now, I value is 2, right? 2 minus 1 is the first one plus 2 minus 2, 0. So you'll be calculating these two values, 2 minus 1 and 2 minus 2. These two will be calculating and this value will be stored here. And here we'll be having value called 1. Okay, 0, 1 and 1. And next is the next step. Next step we'll have a I value equals to 3, right? So here we'll have I value assigned 3. Just a minute. So where is the right question? Okay, here. I'll mention here. So whenever where I value is equals to 3, so we will be calculating I minus 1, I minus 2. So 3 minus 1 will be taken value from 2 and this will be taken here and this will be calculator. So 1 plus 1, 2 is taken. Okay. The same process will be continued like this, guys. Whenever your I value is equals to 4. When I value is equals to 4, I minus 1 from 3 and 2 value will be taken and this will become as 3 here. Okay. So whenever I minus the I value is 5. So from 4 and 3 it will be taken. So this particular two values are added and it become as 5 here. So you can notice that this value will be calculated each and every step. So it is taking like these two values, then followed by these two values, then followed by these two values. So it is like from bottom, we are just going up one by one. Is this clear? That is the reason we'll be saying as a bottom-up approach. For 0, 1, based on these two, I'll calculate it. Again, based on the rest 2, I'll calculate it. Okay, this is a bottom-up approach. So maximum we will be using this approaches, guys. Bottom-up approach we'll be using. The tabular method will be using it for solving the complex program. So I guess I made you people clear what is the difference between your normal approach, normal recursive approach, and what are the two other methods for implementing your dynamic programming. So dynamic programming, so we know that it increases our space complexity, but time wise it is reduced. And all the sub problems is going to be stored. Okay, now we are going to see some scenario based question based on this dynamic programming. Just a minute, give me a minute. Let me open the question, guys. Just a minute, my getting open. Okay, here's a question. Just listen, yeah. Okay, this is check. So this question is all about coin problem. I guess you people might have heard about this. Okay, coin problem. So what is this all about is, so we people will be given like this coin problem can be classified into two different approaches, guys. We'll see one by one. There are two different questions will be asked from it. This is purely dynamic programming question. Okay. So here, what is your question? You're given an integer array coin representing coin of different denomination and an integer amount representing the total amount of money. So what will be given? We will be given an integer array of coins which represents different denomination. Denomination in the sense what they are saying here is it might be 1 rupee coin or 2 rupee coin, some X amount of coins, okay, some rupees of coin, different denomination, and an integer representing the total amount. So I should form this amount with this denomination. Like I want 10 rupees from this amount, this with this denomination. Is that possible to form it? So two questions will be asked. One is different way for forming, the number of ways for forming this amount. And other question is like what is the minimal number of coins required to form this amount. So we'll see one of the kind of this one kind of question here and the other kind of question after completing of this we'll be seeing it. Okay. So as for now, what is the question is? You are given a different denomination of coin and the total amount is given. So for this what they are given here, and what is the remaining is return the number of combination that makes up total amount. We are supposed to give total number of combinations. If the amount cannot be made by the combination, then return 0. Okay, it is literally like if you're going for a shop and you're buying some product, like if they want to give you some change like 10 rupees, they may give in different combination, right? So this is literally the real world scenario only. This is the real world scenario, guys. If some amount has to be formed, what are the different denomination they can able to give for you? This is what they are given here. So let us proceed further. Here, what they mention here is they have stated that you may assume that you have infinite number of each coin. So like we people, if the coin is given like 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 5 rupee, like this. Okay, so we people, if you want to form the coin, we are not supposed to have a rigid number of one values. They told that if you want to take 1 rupee coin, you are given infinite supply of coin. You'll be having like multiple coins of 1 rupee, a group of 2 rupee coin. You can have a group of 5 rupee coin. You can take any number of coin from it. This is what they are given. You are given infinite number of each coins. So what are the things they have provided so far? They are given a coin array with a denomination, and they are given that what is the amount we are supposed to form from it, and they have mentioned that for each and every coin we are given infinite supply of coins is given for us. So now we'll move on to the example. So what is the example they are given? Amount 5, I should form it. Okay, I should form amount 5, and these are the coins given. What are the coins we are going to have? 1 rupee coin, 2 rupee coin, and 5 rupee coin. So if you want to form 5 rupee, what are the different combination? Either I can take 1 5 rupee coin, I can form it. This is the one way, right? The other way is, yes, Trinita, just now I seen your thing. It is not advisable to use it. Better ways you can go ahead with this approach, the other approach, tabular method or top down approach. Yes, good. The other approach is the other way is you can mention with 5 1 rupee coin, you can mention it, right? So either 1 5 rupee coin or 5 1 rupee coin, you can do it. Or what else you can do it? Okay, good. So 1 2 rupee coin and 3 1 rupee coin, you can do it. And what is the other way? Two rupee, 1 rupee. Isn't it? So these are the different way we can able to form the 5 rupees. Since they are given infinite supply of coin is given for us, I can form any one of the approach. So for the what is the output here? I can able to give this, I can able to form this number 5 by using 4 different methods. Your output is 4. So this is what we got 4 as the answer. Clear with the question? Is everyone clear with the question? Can you think to it how this program can be solved? Okay, just try for it. Try to it. Just give a try. I'll give you 5 to 10 minutes. If not, I'll explain you the concept, how to do it. So you're asking this part, right? This part is you're asking one. Let me show you. Array of I, right? So what is I value? Okay. Array of, for example, here, just take some value and substitute here. Array of 3. Okay. Array of 3 plus, if you have amount 4 is has to be found, you can mention 4 minus coin of I. What is the I value? Coin of the particular position value. Coin of ith value will be subtracted along with it. Okay, this subtraction method, this one. This statement we have mentioned here, fetching the value of it is mentioned here. So actually this I value should be just a minute, I'll let you know. What is the I value? 1, right? So just a minute. If you want the exact one, array of 1, coin of, we are taking this scenario, we'll take this scenario. Okay, this one, for this value, let us assume that you're going to find it. For this, what will you do? You will take the first above value is taken plus array of ith value. Ith position is taken I value as 1, right? 1 plus your j amount value is 4 minus coin of first position value. Coin of coin of the ith value. What is the coin of ith value here is 3. The particular amount. The coin what you have taken. Ith position value coin. Can you able to take it? Coin of I. Coin of I in the sense coin is an array which takes coin of first position value is 3 is taken here. Is this point clear? Calculating the length of the array just by using iteration method or by using size of method. So I guess you people are aware of the size of, right? When the array of the size is not known, how can we calculate it? If at all array is given like this. What are the two different approaches for calculating the size of the array, guys, when it is not known? In C, how can we calculate it? Calculating size of the array. Just initialize as of it is initialized directly. We can't scan it, I will agree it. So just assume that array is initialized. Yes, someone has posted the answer. Let me see to it. Have we executed? I want the executed program. I want you people to execute it and return the exact output. I don't want to just modify this program as a algorithm directly. I want you people to execute and check it. Just check it once. Guys, execute the program in your editor. Check to it. Then post the code. So if it are once done, just you can ping me in the chat box. I'll let me see if there is any share permission or accessible. Is there? I'll give you sharing permission. You can share your screen and you can execute and show me. Okay, those who are done, you can let me know, guys. I'll just give the share. I'll give you share screen permission. That's the reason I'm asking you to execute and check it first, then ping me. Okay, I've got them. Here only. Just a minute. Just a minute. I'll just show you the algorithm. Guys, if it are your computer, you can ping me. I'll give you share screen option. You can share your screen. I can show the output. Amount may cross 15 also. What is that? What is we are supposed to display? Number of ways. Number of ways the amount can be found. This is what you're supposed to display. The number of ways we are displaying here. Come on, execute it and make it faster. So more or less your dynamic programming is going to be like this only, guys. All the dynamic programming concept you're supposed to form a table and you're supposed to do it. Yes, 2D array. Table is of 2D array. Then see to it where you made mistake, Aishu. It is of 2D array, right? What happened? Everyone has stuck up somewhere, I guess. So in this case, you get the to the power of. Yes, yes, Chinita, yes. What is that? I'm tired. Okay, just a minute. Let me see to it. Somehow I'm not going to give you solution by today. You can take one entire day. By tomorrow morning only, I'm going to give you solution. So I given an algorithm and I given an approach how to solve it. Okay, take your own time. Okay, break your head and try to find the solution for it. So just converting this logic to program, right? Just check to it where is the flaw is there. So we got the method of solving it. What is the approach
what is all the everything you have seen it. The only thing is you're supposed to convert this algorithm to a program and see wherever there is a logical mistake is there. Okay, I guess you people will be doing tomorrow, right? This time is sufficient. Is this okay? Will it be, can I expect by tomorrow? Yes. Input and out format here. Just a minute. Those who want to see it, just a minute. I'll show you the input. Just a minute. I'll share you the screen. Give me a minute. So this is your input. They're given directly. This is your input and this is the amount. Amount and input will be accepted like this. Okay, normal array. Your input array is normal 1D array. So since this program is common for Python, they may say it as list like one. So you can take it as array. Okay, guys, fine. Okay, by tomorrow we can. I'll hope the answer from you people. Okay. Shall we wind up? I guess concept wise everyone is clear, and this particular algorithm wise you're clear. Only way is only thing is you're supposed to convert this as a program. Okay, fine, guys. See you tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thank you, Ma. Thank you. That link, I don't have link. If at all you have link, you can share to it. It's not required, guys. Okay, it is not mandatory. They'll take care of it. No issues. This Excel you wanted, what I can do. But will you take a screenshot of it? I'll share you the Excel. Those who want Excel, I'll share you the Excel. You can take a screenshot of it. Okay, it is not possible to share it. Okay, you can take a screenshot of it. Those who want this one, you can take a screenshot of it now. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you everyone. Okay, okay. Okay guys, thank you.